Life is full of surprises. A car repair, a medical bill, or even a sudden job loss. Without a financial safety net, those surprises can derail your progress toward a secure future. Hi, I'm James, and welcome back to Midlife Wealth Journey, where we help midlifers like you build a secure financial future. Today we're talking about building an emergency fund in midlife, a step that's crucial for financial stability. I've had to rely on my emergency fund more than once, and it saved me from going back into debt. In this video, I'll share how I built my $9,000 emergency fund, introduce you to someone who used theirs to weather a tough time, and give you practical steps to create your own safety net, starting today. Let's get started. Why an emergency fund is essential in midlife. An emergency fund is money set aside for unexpected expenses, like a medical bill, home repair, or job loss. In your 40s and 50s, it's more important than ever because you're likely juggling big responsibilities, like a mortgage, kids, or aging parents. Without an emergency fund, you might have to rely on credit cards or loans to cover surprises, which can lead to debt, just like we talked about in our last video on paying off debt faster. Having an emergency fund gives you peace of mind. When you know you've got money set aside, you can handle life's curveballs without stress. It also protects your long-term goals. If you have to dip into your retirement savings to cover an emergency, you'll lose the power of compound interest and set yourself back years. Experts recommend having 3 to 6 months' worth of expenses in your emergency fund, more if your income is unstable. For example, if your monthly expenses are $4,000, you'd aim for $12,000 to $24,000. That might sound like a lot, but you can start small and build over time, just like I did. My story. How I built my $9,000 emergency fund. Let me share how I built my emergency fund. When I was 42, I was focused on paying off $18,500 in credit card debt, which I shared in our last video. I didn't have an emergency fund, and that made me nervous. If something went wrong, I'd have to borrow more money. So, I decided to start small while still paying off debt. I opened a separate savings account and set a goal to save $1,000 as a starter emergency fund. I used my budget to find $100 a month by cutting back on non-essentials like streaming subscriptions and impulse buys. It took me 10 months, but I hit $1,000, and it felt like a huge win. Once I paid off my credit card debt at 44, I had an extra $800 a month from my debt payments and side hustle. I decided to redirect $400 of that to my emergency fund. My monthly expenses were about $4,000, so I aimed for a full fund of $12,000, 3 months' worth. With $1,000 already saved, I needed $11,000 more. At $400 a month, it took me about 28 months to reach $12,000, but I got there by 46. Along the way, I had to use my fund twice, once for a $2,000 car repair and once for a $1,500 medical bill. Each time, I rebuilt it by pausing my retirement contributions for a few months and redirecting that money to my emergency fund. Now I've got $9,000 in there while I rebuild to $12,000, and it's given me a sense of security I never had before. A real-life story. How Tom's emergency fund saved him. Now let me tell you about Tom, a 48-year-old electrician who used his emergency fund to get through a tough time. Tom had been saving for years, putting away $200 a month in a high-yield savings account. By 48, he had $10,000 saved, about 3 months' worth of his expenses. He was proud of his progress, but he didn't think he'd need to use it so soon. Then, Tom's company downsized, and he was laid off unexpectedly. He was out of work for 4 months, and his monthly expenses were $3,500. Without his emergency fund, he would have had to rely on credit cards or deplete his retirement savings to get by. Instead, He used $8,000 of his emergency fund to cover bills and essentials while he looked for a new job. That safety net gave him the freedom to take his time and find a job he actually liked, instead of rushing into something out of desperation. Once Tom found a new job, he focused on rebuilding his emergency fund. He started by saving $300 a month, and within a year, he was back up to $10,000. Tom told me his emergency fund was a lifesaver. It kept him from going into debt and gave him peace of mind during one of the hardest times in his life. His story shows why having that safety net is so crucial in midlife. Steps to build your emergency fund. Let's go through some practical steps to build your own emergency fund in midlife. These steps will help you start small and grow your fund over time. Step 1. Set a starter goal. Aim for $1,000 as your first milestone. It's enough to cover most small emergencies, like a car repair or minor medical bill. If $1,000 feels too big, start with $500. The key is to get something saved so you're not starting from zero. I began with $1,000, and it gave me a foundation to build on. Step 2. Find money in your budget. Look for areas to cut back, like dining out, subscriptions, or shopping. Even $50 a month can add up. $50 a month gets you to $1,000 in 20 months. You can also use windfalls like a tax refund or bonus to jumpstart your fund. I found $100 a month by cutting non-essentials, and it made a big difference. Step 3. Set up a separate savings account. Keep your emergency fund separate from your checking account so you're not tempted to spend it. Look for a high-yield savings account that earns a decent interest rate, around 4% in 2025, which helps your money grow a little while it sits there. Automate your savings by setting up a monthly transfer, so it happens without you thinking about it. Step 4. Aim for 3 to 6 months of expenses. Once you hit your starter goal, set a bigger target based on your monthly expenses. If your expenses are $3,000 a month, aim for $9,000 to $18,000. Increase your savings rate as you're able, maybe after paying off debt or getting a raise. I bumped my savings to $400 a month after clearing my credit card debt, and it helped me reach my goal faster. Step 5. Rebuild after using it. If you have to dip into your emergency fund, like I did for my car repair, make a plan to replenish it. Pause other goals, like extra retirement contributions, for a few months and redirect that money to your fund. It took me 4 months to rebuild after my $2,000 withdrawal, but I got back on track by staying consistent. Tips for maintaining your emergency fund. Once you've built your emergency fund, here are a few tips to maintain it. First, only use it for true emergencies, not for things like vacations or new gadgets. Ask yourself, is this unexpected, urgent, and necessary? If not, find another way to pay for it. Second, adjust your target as your expenses change. If you downsize your home or pay off your mortgage, you might need less in your fund. Or if you take on new expenses, like caring for a parent, you might need more. I plan to reassess my $12,000 goal once my mortgage is paid off in a few years. Third, keep your fund accessible, but not too accessible. A savings account is perfect. It's easy to withdraw from, but separate from your daily spending. Don't invest your emergency fund in stocks or other risky assets because you might need the money when the market is down. Finally, review your fund annually. Check the balance, make sure it's still earning interest, and adjust for inflation. A small tweak every year keeps your safety net strong. How an emergency fund fits into your midlife wealth plan. An emergency fund is a key piece of your midlife wealth plan. It protects your other goals, like paying off debt, saving for retirement, or investing with compound interest, by ensuring you don't have to derail them for unexpected expenses. For example, my $9,000 fund kept me from dipping into my retirement savings when I had a medical bill, which meant my investments could keep growing. It's the foundation that lets you take smart risks, like investing more or starting a side hustle, because you know you've got a safety net. Building an emergency fund in midlife is one of the best ways to protect your financial future. My $9,000 fund has saved me from debt more than once, and Tom's story shows how it can get you through tough times like a job loss. You can start building yours today, even if it's just $50 a month. I want to hear from you. What's your emergency fund goal, and how much are you starting with?
Drop a comment below. I'd love to cheer you on. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. We're going to be talking about investing for beginners in midlife, and you won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.